ladies and gentlemen,
That's great.
my friend Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank my agent, Bill Wallace. My gosh, Bill, that was way too long. These people have to be out of here at 9 o'clock, I think, don't they?
No, we extended it all.
We're going till noon today. Oh, that's great. Okay.
I mean, it's only 30 years.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Bill. And we had a lot of people stand up, Bill, but one person we didn't have stand, and that was our friend Bill Wallace. 30 years. Please stand up. Well, a giant thank you on behalf of everybody in this room and those that aren't here right now, Bill. We really appreciate all that you have done and all that you've stood for. Bill has asked me to just say a couple of words about where we've come from in the last 30 years and where we're headed in the next 30 years or beyond. And I said I'd be more than happy to. And then he said, you know, but say a couple of words before we do our interview. Well, I guess he's referring to, I'll share the rest of the story. I have a television production company with my son, Murray Media, which we enjoy doing AV events for lots of nonprofits and corporations here in the city and putting videos together and what have you. But what he was referring to is my son and I went to Normandy on the 70th anniversary of D-Day 4 years ago. And we toured with 24 World War II vets from North Texas, rock stars personified, all in their 90s. Actually, one fellow was 105 and had his 72-year-old daughter with him. Yeah, that's what I said too. Incredible people though. The most humble people I have ever met in my entire life. And thus, as Tom Brokaw once said, the greatest generation. But we toured from Luxembourg to the borders of Germany, back through Bastogne, the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium, and then finally back to France. And Patrick, the people in Normandy look upon America because of the resistance and what we did during World War II. They have more American flags flying over there than I see in the city of Dallas, Texas. It's kind of sad, but it's true. And it's just really above and beyond. But at any rate, the difference that we made over there and what we stood for as a country. And so we came back and put a documentary together, and we both won an Emmy. So it indeed was the highlight of my life. And I'm very proud of my son and proud of my daughter. She lives in New York, Manhattan. She works in Park Ave. She's vice president at J.P. Morgan Chase of all their corporate event planning. So she's my little rock star. Those are my two kiddos. So when he says Father of the Year, that's my proudest moment. And I couldn't say enough about the two of them. I'm really proud of them. But as I think back over the last 30 years, and I think when I met people like Bill Wallace, I think to myself, well, wait a minute. What's happened in the last 30 years here? I came here almost 40 years ago, just a punk kid out of college. I remember starting a Sunday night sports show, and everybody said, nobody's going to watch that. Channel 5 didn't even want to put a sports show on a Sunday night. I said, why? They said, because we're number one in the ratings. I said, what are you running? Reruns of Perry Mason. And true story. I said, I'll take the job if you let me do this Sunday night sports show. And so they did, and the rest is history. And Dale Hansen and I came here within 6 months of each other. And Vern Lundquist was the other guy. There was no Fox. That was a whole different world. And then we went through the 80s, and then in 1988, a guy by the name of Bill Wallace comes along and has a vision, and wants to make it his mission. And over the last 30 years, he certainly has done that. It's incredible what this organization has done. Success North Dallas, and we were kidding before, he ought to call it Success World, because what he has done and the people he has touched, and you heard some of the statistics, unbelievable. I mean, it's above and beyond. And as I think back to where we were in 1988, I think to myself, gosh, 88. I remember going to the end of 88 into 1989, January 2nd, I met a fellow by the name of Troy Aikman, Dallas Cowboys. They were coming off a 3-13 season. It turned out to be Tom Landry's last year as head coach after 29 seasons. That was my world. It was a sports world. The Texas Rangers had only been here 15 years. We didn't have a hockey team. The Mavericks had only been here less than 10. But this fellow with a vision by the name of Bill Wallace said, you know what? We need to do something to create something for all of us. And so the rest is history. And now as I look out here, it was so great to see so many friends as I walked in here today and all that they had to share. Scott, how are you? The one thing that I was really most enamored with, and I guess I can kid about it now, but gosh, Scott, I grew up watching you. Some of these people look 3 times as old as I was, and I'm going, wait a minute, come on. But that's always the nicest thing anybody can say. I was kidding to somebody that some lady said that to me the other day. She said, oh, Scott, can I have my picture with you? And I said, yes, ma'am, you certainly may. She said, I grew up watching you. I said, you did? And she said, and you know, she looked old enough to be my mother. And I said, did you really? And she said, yeah. I said, no. She said, well, no, my family did. I said, can I ask you how old you are? She said, I'll be 94 on my next birthday. So I said, well, I'm glad you grew up watching me. Thanks very much. So, but I'm sure Bill feels much the same way, because as he stops and thinks, as he stood up here at the podium and looked out over each and every one of you, men and women alike, young and old and newbies and some that have been here forever, and somebody like Jan and what have you, from the get-go, and realize where we are today, it really is something special. I do a couple of radio shows. One I do with this young lady down here in front of me. Angel and I do a show called Leading the Way Today. And it talks about, we talk to nothing but CEOs, but we talk about culture, we talk about diversity, we talk about creativity and innovation and collaboration and culture. And think about where it was in 1988 when Bill had this vision of Success North Dallas and where we are today. In a lot of ways, it's wonderful. I remember when I came here in 1980, 81, it's almost 4 decades ago. I was just a punk kid out of college. And yet I remember coming here, and Dallas at the time had been the 14th largest market, Dallas-Fort Worth, and it suddenly had moved up to number 12. And within 6 months of being here, hey, we were a top 10 market. We were number 10. And now Dallas-Fort Worth is number 4 in the country. New York, LA, Chicago, Dallas-Fort Worth. So we continue to grow. It continues to be the hub of where it's happening in this incredible country. But it's because of organizations and visions like Bill had 30 years ago that allow us to continue to do the things that we do. And you don't come here, but I mean, there's nice networking and what have you, but you come here because of what it stood for and what it is and what it continues to stand for. And that's really special. That's really special. And then, of course, in 1989, as we moved forward with your first year, that's when the Dallas Cowboys came to town. A guy named Jerry Jones. Well, the Cowboys were already here, but Jerry Jones took over as a team. And then we had a new quarterback with Troy Aikman, yet we have the legacy of people like Roger Staubach. And you think of all the people in this incredible community that we all call home and what they continue to do every single day. So I could go on and on forever about how wonderful this community is to me. I expected to be here 3 or 4 years. I was offered a job 4 times from ESPN, a couple of times back in the 80s, then in the early 90s. And I said, I'm happy right where I am. This is wonderful. This incredible community that I've come to call home and raise my family is just above and beyond. And I'm sure most of you feel the same way. I'm a walking billboard for this North Texas area, specifically Dallas. And now look at what's happened up north of here, for Pete's sake. We call this Success North Dallas. Look what's happening even further up north. We didn't know what a Frisco was, or a Plano, or an Allen, or a McKinney, or, you know, I mean, they just keep going up. Prosper. We're going to be up in Oklahoma before you know it. It's incredible. But that's because of the vision of people like Bill and you all jumping on board and being a part of it. I close my radio show each and every week with live your life as a go-getter, but share your life as a go-giver. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen all over this incredible country that we all call home. But fortunately, it does happen here. This is the most benevolent organization, the most benevolent community I've ever been a part of. And the one thing that I was referring to, that Angel and I were out on the speaking circuit now, and we have put together a program called Creating Champions Through a Culture of Civility. And the other day, I was with a university president who will go unnamed, but someone that you would all know, that university. And I said to him, you've been a college president for about 25 years now. I said, what is the one thing that you see on campus with this Generation Z, the millennials and what have you, and then the people that have been here for a long time? what is the one thing that concerns you most about our society? And I just had a feeling I knew what he was going to ask or answer. And he said, anger. There's way too much anger in our world today. And I told him about what we had created, our creating champions through a culture of civility, you know, with things like courage and commitment and character and compassion and charity. And it's so sad. And I was in a presentation not so long ago, and it was 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, about 500 of them. And we asked them to write down on a piece of paper what's the one thing that they didn't like about the world that they lived in. 92% of them put something down that had to do with others being kind to them. Either bullying, kind, respectful, courteous. It's disappeared. We have become a community and a world without civility. So if there's one message that I might share with you on behalf of Bill and everybody else that's here this morning, be civil. And most importantly, be civil to our children, because when we're old and gray, they're the ones that are going to be calling the shots for us all. So we better teach them right. Let me very quickly close before I get Bill up here. I don't want to take any more of his time. But let me share with you something I share. I was studying to be a pediatrician before I went to get into broadcasting. I was 20 years old and I was headed to Duke University and graduated with a degree in psychology. And 2 weeks before I left, I was offered a job on a Friday afternoon to be a sports anchor that I'd been doing part-time when I was in college. Never went to medical school, but that's why I have such a passion for children and medicine. Let me share with you the importance of being kind to a child and being kind to one another and returning our world to a world of civility. The poem goes something like this. I got 2 A's, the small boy cried. His voice was filled with glee. His mother turned and rudely said, but why didn't you get 3? Mom, I've got the dishes done, the girl called from the door. Her mother turned and rudely said, but did you sweep the floor? I mowed the grass, the tall boy said. I put the mower away. His father turned and rudely said, but did you clean off all the clay? Now the children in the house next door seemed happy and content. The same thing happened over there, but this is how it went. I got 2 A's, the small boy cried. His voice was filled with glee. His mother turned and smiled and said, I'm glad you live with me. Mom, I've got the dishes done, the girl called from the door. Mother turned and smiled and said, each day I love you more. I mowed the grass, the tall boy said. I put the mower away. His father turned and smiled and said, you've made me happy today. Children desire a little praise for things they're asked to do. If they're to lead a happy life, so much depends on you. That's the key. You are the people, you're the go-getters in this community because of organizations like Success North Dallas and individuals like Bill Wallace. That's said and done. Be the messenger to the masses, to this incredible community that we all call home. Let them know what Success North Dallas continues to do. Incredible legacy, 30 years. And the man that made it all happen, Bill Wallace. Come on up here. Oh, wait, I need that microphone. And I never met a microphone I didn't like. Or run after. Hi, boss.
Hey, I'm glad you're here.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, and it's great to see so many longtime friends, and I met a lot of new friends today, and that's what this organization is all about, isn't it? Relationships, relationships, relationships. Well, I'm going to tell you a little something about that. He read a bio that goes from here to Lubbock on me, and his is a lot longer than mine. But let me just shorten it up a hair and just tell you a little something about Bill in case you might not know. Founder, longtime leader of Success North Dallas, Bill Wallace has often said his greatest skill is putting together the right people for the right reasons at the right time, and he certainly has done that for 3 decades. Emanating from a Rolodex that would put the U.S. government to shame, Bill's generous connection-making has benefited countless individuals who have turned down or turned to him for trusted referrals. He didn't turn down anybody. Strategic business support, educational mentorship, and business leadership coaching as a certified professional coach. And Bill's professional career flourished along with his development of now 30-year-old Success North Dallas. First as owner of Wallace Financial Group and a provider of business continuation planning, insurance, financial strategies, etc. And later as chairman and CEO of the Wallace Companies, a consulting firm specializing in capital development and executive management strategies. As a member of the board of governors of Northwood University and a strategic partner and board member of the University of North Texas Professional Leadership Program, Bill continues to help aspiring college students forge successful careers in business and the community. And isn't that what this incredible organization is about? So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Wallace. Well, before we go to, I've got some notes here and some of the things that we can ask you and talk about. But let me ask you, we've all talked about the fact that we're here 30 years later. I made note just to reference something that was taking place that was big news in this community in 88, 89, and that was the sale of the Cowboys to Jerry Jones. Troy Aikman comes on board, and we win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and about 5 years after that. The point is, sports was my world. For you, who was in corporate America, was in business, what is the one thing that you cherish most? If you had to say, you know what, Scott? I can't begin to tell you all the things that Success North Dallas has meant to me. But what one thing means the most to you that you might share with this group here that has come to honor you today?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is the people in this room and the incredible things that you all have done. But the one crowning, well, the mentorship. 85 of our members have mentored juniors to doctoral candidates. But that's not it either. It's presenting the Dallas Police Officer of the Year Award for the past 16 years. And I don't care if Gandhi or Bush or whomever spoke in this room, that would still be my favorite meeting because it's a study in humility. It's the people like, and Eric Jackson, stand up. Stand up. This gentleman runs the Dallas FBI here. And 2 of his top agents, his assistant agents in charge. Please stand up. You people, the men and women in blue, are the reason we can have this meeting. The reason we have the freedom to do it. The reason we can walk our streets, where in so many areas, and even in this country, we cannot. So guys and gals of the FBI, and anybody some of us have actually gone through the FBI Citizens Academy. Stand up if you've gone through that. And it's an unbelievable experience. 9-10 weeks, you see behind the curtains. And when I was proposing to talk to the FBI, what came up was making the community your eyes and ears. Because, ladies and gentlemen, they can't do what they do without all of you all doing what you do and giving them input when you see something awry. But Eric, I just thank you all. And so that's my problem. For 16 years, and one year, we didn't realize it, but it was the first year a woman was presented with the Police Officer of the Year Award in a major metropolitan area. I had no idea that camera guy in the back was CNN. That went all over the world. We've had so many strange things. Jeff Crilly and Pappy's Pet Lodge, Dead Media Day, St. Patrick's Day, and Pappy's came out of this room. Painted dogs green with food coloring. It was picked up all over the world. It's the innovative side of what you all do that keep us looking good. Because, you see, you're the real journalists. You're not the hate mongers. And so I appreciate you all as well. Mm-hmm. So,
great answer. And we appreciate you as well, Bill. I'll tell you what, though. I've got to ask you. Tell me about that tie. I had to get real close to it. I said, Bill Wallace, does that have your name on it? What is it? And did you all see this tie? Before you leave today, if you've got a moment, you ought to. I wish we had a magnifying glass we could put up on the screen.
Well, Jennifer, stand up. Okay, now you can sit down. She said, I have something for you. And I said, what? She said, I hate your ties. Exactly what she said. And she said, please, don't wear that pink one again.
Can't take it.
But this is the Success North Dallas logo. And the interspersed little words are connecting the right people for the right reasons at the right time. And it was a surprise, as were the Success North Dallas cufflinks a number of years ago. But yeah, thank you. It's a Success North Dallas tie. And you
Very
can
nice.
have one for $57.50.
And all the money goes to Success North Dallas, right?
There you go.
All the proceeds, all right. You talk about the right people, the right whatever, the right vision, the right time. Just knowing that this is the guy, this is the woman, this is the person for this job at this time. I mean, where did that all come from? I mean, there's a lot of people that would love to marry people and say, okay, hey, you're good for this, you're good for this. And in the end, it always doesn't turn out to be that way. You've got a pretty good record. How have you been able to do that?
Well, take a step back. Networking. That's what we're all there for in many, many cases. Hopefully, our speakers, I think you will say, have always been current, topical, with immediate takeaways. Well, that's the speaker side of it. The networking side of it is, networking is when two people meet each other. And more often than not, 90% of the time, one of those cards will go in the trash, if not both of them. So it's setting something a little bit different. When I meet somebody, I think about net weaving. And that's how we weave two networks together, my network and Matt's network. Through that, 1 + 1 is far greater than 2, or 200, or 2,000. And then the next level we go to is that level of servant leadership, where you're actually leading with how can I help? So when I meet somebody, I'm immediately thinking about, now who should I introduce Jeff to? Would that be Matt? For what reasons? Is it the right time? And so that's the way I lead. When I'm meeting somebody, I ask them what they do. You all may have noticed, I never give away a business card unless it's asked for. And even if you've asked for it, I will ask you again, may I give you my card? If I'm giving somebody a card, I will ask permission, may I give you my card? And I will hand it to them with 2 hands. Because the last thing I want is to have cards dealt to me. So it's a making of a difference. It's making yourself memorable as you serve that other person. For we are truly servants. And so that's the way I do it.
All right, let me play off of that then. And I've heard you do this at different nonprofit events and galas and what have you that you and I have been. I see you always networking in a positive, productive way, but at the same time, you always talk to people and you'll say, hey, come on down, we network and we do, and they say, well, I got my own network, you know, I can do that. But you always say, but we're a safe place. Mm-hmm. So talk to me, I've always heard you say that. We're a safe place. So talk about why that's important and why this is a safe place compared to something else outside.
When I started Success North Dallas at the behest of my 2 mentors, Herb Kelleher, Southwest Airlines, and Roger Meyer, who was the largest Cadillac dealer, one day Herb said to me, Wallace, when you figure out why I should do business with you, come back. Now get out and figure it out. Literally, he did call me the next day. And I went out and I looked at all of the networking groups in North Texas to see what people did not like. Not what they liked, but what they did not like. Card pushers was number 1. Pitch bookers, people walking around with pitch books, were number 2. Selling of wares in the room. Selling from the lectern. Charging of guests. We had to modify that a little bit. But one of my friends said, oh, so no money, no coins change hands in the temple. And I said, I guess that's right. So you're not going to get, as one lady said, who said, I've been coming here 6 months. And she said, I've never been in an organization, and she was a former beauty queen, I've never been in an organization where I have not been hit on. This is a safe space to be who you are, to not have things shoved in your face, to not be dealt cards, to where you can ask anyone in this room for help, and they will help you. The 3 most powerful words in the English language, and some will say it's 4, are please, thank you, and help. And this is a room that embodies all three of those. Our initial qualifications, and still are for membership, are so very, very simple. Be a success in your own eyes. I, nor you, have any right to define what success is to someone else. Honor your commitments. Let's go back to the handshake. And be a giver. It's all about our fellow men and women. And that is why this is a safe space. In 1988, the last thing on the list that people did not like were women and networking. And that was a different culture, and that was a different time. But Herb had also said to me, be disruptive, damn it, and create transformational change. And you can do it. And that's why people will do business with you. My disruptor was women. When we started Success North Dallas, we were 30% women from day one. When we had our 25th anniversary, the only luncheon we've ever done, the room was 440 people. Anchorage Hotels paid for the whole thing. Dave Hamilton put it all together, wherever Dave Hamilton is. He got literally Boone Pickens to welcome the CEOs of Fluor, USAA, 7-Eleven, BNSF, all the same dais. Honored Nancy Lieberman. I looked out at the audience, one of my proudest moments. It was 50% women. So ladies, a reality check, you're why Success North Dallas is still here 30 years later. And I salute each and every one of you, and I thank you for that. So there's
And just like Oprah, we have cars for all of the women here. As you depart today, they'll be parked out front here. Yeah.
Yes, they're made by Matchbox.
Yes. Well, I didn't want to tell that until they got out
I'm
there,
sorry.
okay.
I blew that, I'm sorry.
You mentioned two people that were dear friends of mine as well. As a matter of fact, I was doing a function for the Commemorative Air Force not so long ago, and Herb Kelleher was there. I hadn't seen him in years. An incredible man, as was Roger Meyer.
Right.
And I just wondered, Roger has passed, Herb's still with us, and yet I just wondered what it is that was special about those two, that you look to them as mentors. We all know who they are, but what was it about their personality that you said, you know what, this guy knows what he's talking about. I need to believe this. I need to be, use him as a role model of sorts. What comes to mind?
Well, it's a funny story. People, and I want to tag into something else on that. People have asked me, how did you get your mentors? How did this? How did that? Well, I walked into Roger Meyer's office and I said, my aunt says you're the best salesman in the world, and she's bought all her Cadillacs from you, and I want you to mentor me. He said, excuse me? He said, you didn't come in to buy a Cadillac? I said, no. I said, I came in to ask you because you were supposed to be the best salesperson in the world to mentor me. And he sat down and he started laughing. He said, I've had a whole lot of things happen in this place, but never anything like that. Todd Meyer, his son, who was former mayor of Addison, we still joke about it when we see each other, remembering the man was memorable because he made you feel like you were the only person there, that you were the most important person in the world, and he loved on you. And then when he finished loving on you and you left, he called you up to love on you some more. That's what was memorable about Roger Meyer. And Herb Kelleher, well, in 1979, I got a letter that said, would you help us build a house? I was cocky, arrogant, 29 years old, and I took a little Sharpie and I wrote on the front of it, if you're crazy enough to ask, I'm crazy enough to say yes. Would you like to tell me about it? Well, that letter happened to come from Dr. Dale Fuller, head of oncology at Children's Medical Center. And the house was the Ronald McDonald House of Dallas. We opened it debt-free, Valentine's Day, 1981. And I got involved because I thought they could not do it without me. I was hot stuff. 6 months after that house opened, I realized that that was the most self-serving thing I'd ever done in my life. It was the gas in my tank. And in a talk many years later that I was giving, Vision, the Genesis of Making an Organization Work, Mara Schreier Fleming asked me a question. She said, if you could change one thing in your life, what would that be? And I didn't even realize what I was saying. But I said, if I received that letter one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 lifetime earlier, because you see that letter changed my course to where nonprofit then became an avocation for me, with Brian's House, Hoblitz, and so many others. Much like Scott, although Scott, lives we can't even talk about that, the lives he touched in comparison. But as a result of that letter, I met Herb Kelleher because they were cooking at the Ronald McDonald House. And we sat down one evening, we started talking, and I thought to myself, now I know why there's a Southwest Airlines. The man's a business genius, but more than anything else, the man is a motivational genius. The man is a sharing genius. I think they got up to 8,000 employees, and then he started missing a few names, not knowing that employee's name. Somewhere he says it's between 7,500 and 8,000. But he embraced every employee that he had, much like I try to embrace everybody in this room, and you embrace me back. The memories of Herb Kelleher are all so amazing, but one of my life isms really came from him. If it's not fun, don't do it. If you have to do it, find a way to make it fun first. You can. And it's difficult as it may be, I found a way to do that even with cancer. But it's always been a mainstay in my life, a person that always answers the phone, a person that always gets back to you. And I think the key element of Herb is he is one of the most genuine people I know. And I started working with Southwest Airlines, not working for them, but working with them. I ended up on their cultural committee where we actually flew around and thanked pilots and stewardesses. It's just been amazing. Before 9/11, we were able to do a lot of things. I flew jump seat. We became friends. When they got their first simulator, he called me up and said, we're having a party, come on down. So he said, come on, I'm flying. So he gets in the simulator and he crashes and kills us 3 times. And literally the pilot finally comes in and said, would you like for me to show Mr. Wallace how to fly this thing? But it's those endearing. We started the Southwest Airlines Love Classic as a history. Ronald McDonald House, we had a media bar owner here named Joe Miller. And you remember Joe. Well, Joe was dying of cancer, and the media got together, Dale Hansen, I think, ramrodded it, and they put on a golf tournament.
I don't think he drinks, does he? Oh, okay. It's just inside humor, folks. That's all right. Dale who?
Dale Hansen, yeah. But anyway, the media, and they had $25,000 left over.
Yeah.
And they gave it to the Ronald McDonald House after Joe passed. So Colleen Barrett, Dave Wallace, not related to me, myself, and Vickers, we went to see Linda Miller, Joe's widow, and we asked if we could start this tournament called the Joe Miller Ronald McDonald House Tournament. And we did. And we did it with a business plan of 5 years where it would go and then become the Southwest Airlines Love Classic. Today, that tournament raises about $600,000, sells out in a few days, and it goes third to the Ronald McDonald House of Dallas, and then the rest to other Ronald McDonald houses on the Southwest system. Because we were sitting and talking one day, and he said, our people love the Ronald McDonald House so much, we should really work with every house anywhere we fly on our system. And that's the way that happened. And so I get a call a number of years later, and I just had lunch maybe 6 or 8 months before with Pat Kemp, who's the president of Morrock and Associates, a huge PR firm that happened to have the entire Southwest Airlines account. And I was on the board of Ronald McDonald House Charities. And when we met in Dallas, we would meet at their offices. And I'd taken these little drawings, and I said, we need, they'd done Shamu, which had I said, we need to do a plane called Ronald One. And he laughed at me and he said, that's kind of crazy, that's not gonna happen. But we were laughing. 6 months later, I get a call from Colleen Barrett. She said, would you like to go pick up your plane? And I said, excuse me? She said, are you doing anything? I said, well, I guess I'm not now. They named it the Spirit of Hope. And there's pictures of Colleen Barrett and I walking down the aisles in tears, because you see every overhead bin is painted by a child at Ronald McDonald House in this Washington, Oregon area. So Herb Kelleher, that letter, but Herb Kelleher, his genuineness and his love, even to today, got a call from him last week. He said, 30 years, eh? He said, at least I did one thing right. And that's Herb Kelleher. He shares the vision. He shares the passion of that vision. And then he shares the ownership with everybody else. And that's what I saw. And thus, that is my definition of a Scott Walker, of an entrepreneur. They share the vision, they share the passion, they share the ownership. Mm-hmm. That's Herb Kelleher.
All right, well then this kind of plays off the next question that I had written down here. What's kept you inspired for 30 years? There are a lot of people that wouldn't make it 30 years. They'd go for 10 and they'd say, this was great. We just, a decade of greatness. This was wonderful, and then they move on to something else. What is it that has kept you inspired for 3 decades now as you approach a 4th? I mean, that's a long time.
When I've been down and out, my phone will ring. It's Jan Clogger. It's Chris Hill. It's John. The people in this room are what has inspired me. The things that the people in this room have done is what inspires me. The smiles, the hugs, the laughter, the tears, because we've had some real crappy times as well, but we've hung together. We've had some times when, it was, this is costing a little bit too much, and somebody says, no, it's not. Here. We've had some times when we've been flourishing. So we have a little much, we give it away. There's great times still ahead. The rocks were there, there's no question. But those rocks became diamonds because of the people in this room. That's what inspires me.
I'm a great one for playing devil's advocate with everything I do. And I always try to look back and learn from where I've come from and where I'm headed to. I want to make sure that it doesn't offend anybody else. But by the same token, is it going to work for the majority of the folks that we're trying to, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a for-profit? Because the people that are going to be making it happen are the people that we're going to have to work with. So you have to have the respect for the people that you're teaming with. That said and done, as you look back, is there anything that you would do over that you know would really have been, or if you could change anything you've done to make it even better? I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, because what you've done is incredible, but I always think, how could I have made something that was spectacular even more spectacular? What comes to mind? Anything?
Yeah. Yes, it does. In 1988, I was in the insurance business. I started niching, working with startups and entrepreneurs, and I would change the name of Success North Dallas. I named it Success North Dallas because I wanted to sell insurance in North Dallas. And I wanted to bring people to Success North Dallas to meet other people from North Dallas, so they would bring other people from North Dallas to meet me. What I did not realize is that people were bringing people from all over the U.S., all over Texas, to meet me, because I was bringing people here to meet them. So I would have named it Success World, Success Only. It would not have been geographically pinned down. That was the thing, because today when I look around, when I look at the upcoming speakers, our next 2 speakers are coming from California. And we have New York. We have members that come up from Houston, Shreveport, Oklahoma City, We'll have 2 or 3 jets in various times landed at Addison Airport for this meeting. People that are coming in for this, not to speak. And all of the companies that have been formed out of this, they haven't been just Dallas companies. They haven't been just North Texas companies. And they've touched people throughout this nation.
Mhm.
So I would have named it just success.
Okay, all right. You talk about those companies, and I think you mentioned earlier, 90 companies? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's 30 a year for Pete's sake, or 30 every 10 years, I mean.
Yeah, that.
That's unbelievable.
And 6 entrepreneurs a
So,
year.
well, was that your intention initially?
No. My intention was to have an informal board of directors. I invited 7 people together for breakfast at the Landmark Club. We stayed there until they stopped serving food and moved here 24 years ago. And this is our home. The 3rd Wednesday of every month, except for on occasionally we'll have to change it for a holiday. And I tell people, don't worry about the speaker. It'll be great. Just be here. And, you know, when I think about it, and I'm going to go back, I never thought that the companies would be formed like that. I figured we'd have a few companies. But we started attracting people that were brilliant, that had visions and innovations. We had 600 Young Entrepreneurs of the Year come out of this room. One of them sitting right there. And Scott Walker. We've had Source One out of this room. So, no, I never imagined that. I imagined a fertile ground for those 7 people. I asked each one of them to invite one removed from everybody else in the room. And so with those 7 and myself, we had 15 people that we started this thing. J.C. Penney's timeline. There was a hole underneath Beltline that was being called the North Dallas Tollway. J.C. Penney's moved in a year and a half before to what became the Pizza Hut building right behind the Marriott Forum. I was introduced by the chairman of J.C. Penney's, Bill Howe, to a gentleman named Alfred Lynch, who was the director of strategic planning and development.
Let me interrupt you for 1 sec. Did we just lose the sound? Did sound?
Are we back?
Okay, are we back? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Al Lynch,
Yeah.
named Al Lynch, and he was one of those original 7. Our bylaws were drawn by the J.C. Penney's attorneys and signed in their boardroom. So it's been an interesting trip, and a place to network together and mentor each other. An informal board of directors was the initial genesis of Success North Dallas. And then, lo and behold, over the next 5 years, it had taken on a life of its own.
Mhm. Okay. Any other people along the way that you haven't mentioned today that you would like to make note of?
There's literally so many. I go back to the chairman of FlowServe, CEO there. You know, literally, I called him up and asked him to come speak, and he said, "Well, why don't you come out here?" And I spent a day or so at FlowServe, just getting to know the people. I mentioned Scott Walker. He came alongside of me. He said, "Man, we're here for you." You know, I was at an interesting meeting, the Friday group, literally last Friday, and it was their 40th anniversary. And they had 5 mayors. Tom Lepper, he's spoken here. He's become a dear friend. He wrote the foreword to my book that's coming out in December, which is Being a Catalyst for Success, The Life of a Servant Leader. Steve Bartlett, he spoke. Laura Miller, she spoke. Lee Cohen has spoken here. She interviewed them. Mike Rollins hadn't, but he says my Wednesdays are dedicated to city council only. And I said, "But you can get a chase car and come down here." He said, "Nah, I can't do that." And I respect that. But all of those mayors have spoken, and I was amazed. And all of those mayors have, on a Wednesday, have come to the Dallas Police Officer of the Year presentation. So the public officials that came alongside. When we started presenting the Dallas Police Officer of the Year award, and became involved with also the North Texas Crime Commission, which is a great organization. They came alongside.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was a shift. There was a shift when we moved from the Landmark Club to here, where we could expand and grow. There was a paradigm shift, not a paradigm shift, there was a shift when we started mentoring the professional leadership program at the University of North Texas. And then there was a shift when we started presenting the Dallas Police Officer of the Year award. So these are inflection points as we've grown.
Okay. We're running out of time, but I've got two quick questions here.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
We got some stuff to do.
All right,
This
well,
is-
okay. Well, then let's make this the last question. 30 years, incredible legacy. We've discussed it in detail today. Most meaningful. And yet, as you look ahead, this is going to be your legacy someday. So, two parts to this question. What are we going to look forward to? What can we all look forward to over the course of the next 10 years, over the next decade as we approach 40 years, in your legacy? What would you like it to be?
Not my name on a building, but that Wallace's footprints walk through here. That's my legacy. And as far as who's going to take this thing over, I don't know, but I'm looking at we're talking right now.
Well, not necessarily who's going to take it over,
Yeah.
but new plans that you have, new ideas, new concepts. This is a technologically crazy world that we live in. What lies ahead for a Success North Dallas?
We're going to start podcasting. We're going to start doing some things differently. We're going to start streaming. And I think we're going to expand. I want more international speakers to come in.
Okay.
And I think we can get that.
Okay.
Because many of you have laughed, but my definition of a speaker is current, topical, with immediate takeaways, a name that will fill the room if he speaks on janitorial service, or she does, or a speaker that will fill the room if they speak on janitorial services. But I want current, topical, immediate takeaways, and Dallas is becoming a hub for the world. And so why shouldn't those people come to Success North Dallas?
Well, as I said at the top, thank you. Thanks for the time you just spent sharing what you just shared with us. But most importantly, thanks for creating what you did 30 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Wallace. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to beg your indulgence. Could I have 10 more minutes? I had no idea that I talked so much. But, wow, that was intense. That was intense. And blah, blah, blah. Scott, come back up here. We have something that we do. We honor our speakers. And I mean that. And you're the speaker. And this is from Queen's Winery. It's award-winning dessert wine. I'm going to do this very quickly, but that Ray Southwell, stand up. Ray's in the back. He does
Thank
these.
you.
He does these wonderful name tags.
That's very cool.
It is. It's beautiful.
That's very cool. Thank you.
And then,
Thank you.
we're not done yet. We have a book for you. And this is autographed by Sam Wiley and the Wiley family. But it's Dallas Guy Has Got It Right. And it's an unbelievable book. The description goes, Scott, thank you again for sharing your time and insight with Success North Dallas. You're a huge part of the reason that Dallas got it right.
Thank you.
And by all means. And then, I know you're a nappy dresser, but custom shirt from Edward
Thank you.
Malcolm Clothiers.
Thank you. Okay.
Dinner for two at McGuire's
Okay.
and
Yeah.
Peg and I for breakfast. And then your lovely wife. They came to my mother's funeral, folks. And we've had a friendship. But Carol, send her over to Grand Spa for a massage or a facial.
Okay.
Thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.